Most people are addicted to attention, but attention is a poor substitute for achievement. Here's a lesson life taught me early. The more time you spend studying yourself in silence, the less time you'll spend explaining yourself to others. Let me tell you, life gets real quiet when you get serious. You stop arguing, stop proving, you stop reacting, you just build. And the results? They speak louder than you ever could. You don't attract success by chasing it. You attract success by becoming a person worthy of it. And that starts when you turn your attention inward and stay the course in silence. Let me tell you something I learned early on. Wherever your attention goes, your energy follows. It's not just a catchy phrase, it's a law of life. If you spend your time watching what everybody else is doing, peeking over the fence, scrolling through other people's lives, getting wrapped up in their wins and their failures, you leak energy. You drain the very fuel that's supposed to build your dreams. And the truth is, the more you watch others, the more you forget who you are. You become a spectator in the game of your own life. You become reactive, not intentional. I remember a time in my early days when I was working a regular job, living a regular life, and thinking very regular thoughts. And the more I watched others rise, the more I wondered why it wasn't happening for me. But here's the catch. I wasn't watching to learn. I was watching to compare. I wasn't observing to get inspired. I was observing to justify why I hadn't started. I gave away the most valuable asset I had, my attention. And where your attention goes, your life follows. One day I got a little notebook, that's it, a little journal. I made a decision to track my habits, my thoughts, my results. I began to ask myself, what am I feeding my mind? What am I doing with my time? What am I building? And slowly the gears started turning. That's the power of inward focus. That's when everything started to change. Not when I tried to beat the competition, but when I tried to beat yesterday's version of me. You see, when you focus inward on sharpening your skills, improving your mindset, building your philosophy, something beautiful happens. You begin to gather momentum. You take one good step, then another, and before long, your results begin to compound. That's the real secret of momentum. It doesn't show up when you chase applause. It doesn't show up when you argue with strangers on the internet. It shows up when you decide to do what needs to be done, whether anyone's watching or not. And here's the other thing about attention. It creates emotion. If you focus on fear, you feel fear. If you focus on success, you feel the drive to succeed. If you spend your mornings watching drama, guess what? You'll carry that drama into your day. But if you spend it reading a good book, taking care of your health, or reviewing your goals, you carry clarity. Attention is the steering wheel of your emotions. You want to control your mood? Control your focus. They're not watching everyone else's lane. They're dominating their own. They've learned the discipline of silence. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they've learned that their energy is better spent building than broadcasting. And when you're in the middle of building something great, you don't have time to prove it. You're too busy becoming it. Energy is like money. Spend it wisely. Don't waste it on comparisons, complaints, or things you can't control. Invest it in your mind, your health, your habits. Let others talk about the weather, politics, or who did what last weekend. You stay focused on your goals. You stay focused on your mission. Because if you can direct your energy, you can design your destiny. When you turn your attention inward and focus on becoming a little better each day, you begin to unlock potential you never knew you had. And soon, the world outside will begin to reflect the power you built inside. I used to think I had to talk to be taken seriously, that I had to share my opinions, show off my knowledge, join every debate, raise my voice just to prove I was in the room. But I learned something over time. Silence isn't weakness. It's strength under control. It's the calm confidence of someone who doesn't need to broadcast their worth because they're too busy becoming it. You see, when you're always speaking, you miss what life is trying to teach you. You miss the subtle cues in conversations, the wisdom between the lines, the feedback the world is giving you every single day. When you're quiet, you hear better. You hear others. You hear the lessons. And most importantly, you hear yourself. Most people are afraid of silence because in silence, they come face to face with their own thoughts. And if your mind is chaotic, silence feels like discomfort. But if your mind is trained, silence becomes your sanctuary. I remember one of my mentors used to say, speak less, do more. And that advice changed how I operated, because the people who are doing the most don't have time to explain it. They let the results do the talking. There's power in quiet work. There's power in preparing in the dark so you can shine in the light. That's how wealth is built, not in noise, but in clarity, not in chaos, but in control. Silence also buys you time to think, time to reflect, time to align your actions with your values. We live in a world that rushes us to react. Every ping, every post, every opinion demands an instant reply. But if you want to build something meaningful, whether it's your character, your business, your relationships, you've got to step back and give it space. Silence creates space. And space allows vision to expand. Now, let's talk about discipline, because silence is a discipline. When someone insults you, it takes strength to stay quiet. When you're tempted to defend your ego, it takes strength to say nothing. When everyone else is trying to impress, it takes wisdom to stay focused. I'm not saying never speak. I'm saying know when to speak. A powerful person doesn't talk all the time. They speak with intention. They speak when it matters. One of the greatest business lessons I ever learned came during a meeting. I stayed quiet the entire time, just listening. At the end, I asked one question, just one. That question changed the direction of the deal, and it wouldn't have come to me if I'd been too busy trying to sound smart. The best insight often comes after the noise dies down. If you're always filling the space, you'll never discover what the silence is trying to teach you. So let others talk. Let them post, argue, and perform. You stay grounded, stay quiet, work on yourself in the silence. Build your mindset, grow your skills, sharpen your habits. The world doesn't need another loud voice. It needs stronger people. And strong people don't shout their strength, they live it. Silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. Let your silence become the foundation of your strength. Because when you learn to master your silence, you begin to master yourself. I used to wonder why some people seem to attract opportunity like a magnet while others struggled just to get noticed. And over time, I realized it's not about charm, it's not about who talks loudest, and it's not even about raw talent. It's about self-mastery. Influence doesn't begin when you get the microphone. It begins when you gain control over yourself. The way you think, the way you respond, the way you discipline your behavior when no one's watching, that's the real groundwork of power. Before you can lead others, you must first lead yourself. That means mastering your mornings instead of letting them master you. It means choosing discipline over impulse. It means doing the right thing even when no one would know if you didn't. Because here's the truth. The world is always watching, even when you think it isn't. And success has a funny way of finding those who built themselves in private. One of the greatest mistakes I made early on was thinking I had to chase success, run after it, knock on every door. But success is attracted, not pursued. And what does it get attracted to? Character, integrity, consistency, self-respect. Those are the traits of someone who doesn't need external validation because they've built a fortress within. You don't become influential by trying to impress people. You become influential by becoming impressive in your habits, your thinking, your results. Think of a thermostat. It doesn't just respond to the temperature, it sets it. That's what self-mastery allows you to do. When you lead yourself with clarity and strength, Others begin to look to you not because you demanded their attention, but because your very life becomes an example of what's possible. Now let's talk about habits. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Your daily decisions become your destiny. You can have big dreams and still lose to small habits. Every moment you delay what you know you should do, you feed the weaker self. But every time you choose discipline over ease, you're building the internal architecture of influence. Because influence, real influence, isn't loud, it's felt. It's quiet confidence that says, I've done the work. I remember when I started turning things around in my life, not with big changes, but with small wins. Waking up earlier, reading instead of watching television, saying no to invitations that didn't align with where I was going. These little disciplines stacked up until one day I realized I didn't need to chase influence anymore. I had become someone others respected, not because I asked for it, but because I earned it. And here's the real payoff. When you master yourself, you stop depending on the world to motivate you. You become self-propelled. You don't need applause. You don't need praise. Your reward becomes your growth. And that's the kind of strength that not only influences others, but inspires them. So if you want to lead, start by leading the person in the mirror. If you want to attract opportunity, start by becoming someone opportunity feels safe with. Don't ask for power, earn it through self-mastery. That's how it works. And when it starts working, everything changes. There was a time I thought I had to explain myself to everyone, justify my decisions, defend my dreams. I'd get caught in debates with people who had never built anything, never risked anything, never grown beyond their own fears. And I'll tell you, it drained me. Because the critics don't want truth, they want attention. They don't want solutions, they want control. That's when I learned one of the greatest lessons of my life. Don't feed the critics, starve them with silence. You see, your weaker self gets its energy from drama. It wants to be heard, validated, pitied. It wants to win arguments instead of winning the war. But the stronger self stays quiet and gets to work. The stronger self doesn't need to respond with words because it's building a life that speaks louder than any defense ever could. Critics thrive when you give them a microphone. So don't hand them one. Don't explain your vision to someone who's never left the comfort zone. Don't seek validation from those who wouldn't dare do what you're doing. Every second you spend defending yourself is a second stolen from your development. Every ounce of energy poured into someone else's judgment is energy stolen from your mission. And here's what happens when you stay silent and stay focused. Your life begins to shift slowly, steadily. Your body changes, your finances change, your results change. And when they do, you won't need to tell anyone what happened. They'll see it, they'll feel it. You'll walk into a room and the old doubts they had won't even fit anymore. Your transformation will have outgrown their criticism. That's the real win. Not proving them wrong with words, but proving them irrelevant with your growth. I've seen this play out in my own life. People who once doubted me, who mocked the journey, who thought I was foolish for dreaming big, they quietly disappeared as my results started speaking. They had nothing left to say. Because when a man builds something real, it silences every what if and you can't. And don't misunderstand me, it's not about ego, it's not about revenge. It's about clarity. It's about staying aligned with your vision, not getting pulled into emotional battles that distract you from the work. You're not here to convince anyone, you're here to become someone. I've learned that when you hold your tongue and stay the course, time becomes your advocate. Results become your voice. Growth becomes your defense. And eventually even your critics, if they're honest, will have no choice but to respect the person you become. So remember this, your greatest response is your rise. Your most powerful argument is your evolution. Don't feed the critics, starve them. With silence, with focus, with results. But you know what I discovered? That approval is a moving target. Today they cheer, tomorrow they criticize. One day you're a genius, the next you're foolish. If your sense of worth is built on the noise of others, you'll spend your whole life dancing to someone else's rhythm. But when you let go of that need for approval and begin seeking alignment instead, alignment with who you really are, what you believe, what you're building, that's when everything begins to change. That's when your days start feeling different. You're no longer trying to impress people who don't even live by the values you're committed to. You're no longer adjusting your dream to make it digestible for someone else's limited perspective. You stop shrinking to fit and start stretching to grow. I remember a time when I had an opportunity in front of me, a new business venture that didn't make sense to others. Friends said it was risky, family said it wasn't smart, and part of me, the part that still needed their approval, hesitated. But deep down, I knew this was my lane. I knew this was aligned with where I was going, not where they had stopped. So I made the move, not because it was popular, but because it was aligned. And years later, that decision became one of the best I ever made, not because of the money, but because I became someone I could respect. When you choose alignment, you may lose some people, but you gain yourself. And that's the greatest gain of all, because the truth is, the more you align with your real mission, your real values, your real purpose, the more peace you carry. Peace isn't found in applause. It's found in integrity. It's found when your actions match your beliefs, when your walk matches your words. And you'll notice something else too. As you align, the right people start to show up. Not the ones who only like the version of you that made them comfortable, but the ones who challenge you, support you, grow with you. That's when your circle starts to reflect your values. That's when your environment begins to match your elevation. Now, alignment doesn't always feel comfortable. Sometimes it means saying no when everyone else is saying yes. Sometimes it means working in silence when everyone else is posting their progress. Sometimes it means trusting your path even when no one claps. But that's the price of authenticity, and let me tell you, it's worth every uncomfortable moment. So, if you want real progress, stop chasing approval and start chasing alignment. Let the world have their opinions. You focus on your direction. Don't ask, do they approve? Ask, does this align? Because applause fades, but alignment compounds. And if you stay true to it, your life will begin to unfold in ways applause could never achieve. There's a moment in everyone's life when they realize that the loudest voices in the world aren't the ones that lead to lasting success. The real work, the transformative work, happens when you decide to step away from the noise and focus on your own growth. People may not understand it. They may see you as distant, quiet, or absent. They may even wonder if you've lost your way, but that's the price of improvement. It's not always flash. It's the quiet, consistent effort that transforms you from the inside out. When you choose to improve yourself, you stop living for other people's opinions and start living for your own development. You stop seeking validation from the crowd and start creating your own standards. Improvement isn't about being perfect right away. It's about progress. Little by little, you shape yourself into the person you want to be. And as you do that, you'll notice something incredible. The more you focus on yourself, the less you care about the opinions of those who don't understand your journey. There will be a time when the world will notice your absence, but don't let that bother you. Let them think you're missing. Let them think you've gone soft. What they don't see is the quiet, disciplined work you're doing behind the scenes. You don't see the countless hours you're putting into learning, into improving, into growing. They don't see the sacrifices, the battles fought within your mind, or the quiet strength you're building. One day, when you reappear transformed, they'll have no choice but to acknowledge that you're not the same person you were before. The person they once knew The person who is reactive, insecure, unsure of themselves won't exist anymore. Instead, they'll see someone who is solid, who is unshakable, who has mastered their own mind, a person whose presence commands respect, not because of how loud they speak, but because of how loudly their actions speak. In this world, improvement requires you to embrace silence. It's in that silence that you will learn to hear your own thoughts, to recognize your weaknesses, and to take action. The journey to becoming a better version of yourself is a solitary one, but it's the only one that leads to true transformation. The funny thing is, when you emerge from your self-imposed silence, the people who once doubted you will be the first to ask, "How did you do it?" And you'll smile, not because you've figured it all out, but because you know the secret. The secret is simple. Improvement is a quiet, personal affair. It's about not just doing what's easy, but doing what's necessary. It's about going beyond what others expect of you and finding the strength to redefine what's possible. So, if you feel like the world is waiting for you to speak, waiting for you to be loud, take a step back and understand that the true power is in your silence. The true power is in your focus. The true power is in your ability to improve yourself quietly and consistently until the day comes when you show up not as who you were, but as someone they no longer recognize, a stronger, more powerful, and unshakable version of yourself. That is the ultimate reward. The world will throw all kinds of challenges your way. People will come and go, opportunities will rise and fall, and circumstances will shift in ways you can't control. But there is one thing that no one can take from you: the person you become. The investment you make in yourself is the only one that guarantees a return that cannot be lost. Look at the things in your life that you value most: your home, your career, your status. All of these are valuable, no doubt, but let me tell you, they are fragile. Anything you own, anything you achieve, can be taken away by circumstances beyond your control. But the investment you make in your own growth, in your mindset, in your strength of character, that is an asset no one can steal from you. Think about it. If you lose your job, you can find another one. If your house is lost, you can rebuild. If your reputation takes a hit, you can repair it with time and action. But if you invest in becoming stronger, smarter, more disciplined, and more capable, you will always have something that can't be taken away. Self-investment is the key to everything else in life. It's the bedrock of wealth, success, and happiness. When you build yourself up from the inside, you build a foundation that will hold steady no matter what comes your way. The stronger you are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, the less you need from the outside world. You'll find that your peace, your strength, and your success don't depend on the world around you. They depend on what you've built within yourself. Now, don't confuse this with the idea of selfishness. This isn't about ignoring the world around you or leaving others behind. It's about understanding that you can only give to others what you have in abundance, and you can't give what you don't have. If you're not strong within yourself, if you don't invest in your own growth, you won't have the capacity to help others or make the impact you were meant to make. But when you build your internal strength, when you grow in wisdom, discipline, and character, you become a source of strength for everyone you encounter. Your growth is your responsibility, and it's the best investment you'll ever make. No one can do it for you. No one can force you to grow, to improve, or to develop the habits and mindset that lead to success. But when you make the choice to focus on yourself, on your own development, your own improvement, that's when everything else starts to fall into place. This is the wealth that can't be lost. This is the power that no one can take from you. And this is what will carry you through life, no matter what the world throws at you. The best investment you can make is not in things, not in possessions, but in the person you're becoming. Because the person you become is the foundation for everything you'll ever achieve. So make the decision today. Start investing in yourself. Put in the time, the effort, and the discipline to build the strongest version of you. And remember, as you build that inner strength, the outside world will have less and less power over you. You'll become a force that can't be shaken. And that's a wealth that no one can ever take away. Peace is not something that you'll stumble upon while chasing after everything else in life. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere when the world quiets down, when you've checked off all the boxes, or when you finally achieve that one big goal. Peace isn't a gift. It's something that you build. It's the product of inner work, of consistent discipline, and of aligning your life with your values and your true purpose. The world can be chaotic, unpredictable, and at times downright unsettling. There's always noise, whether it's from the demands of others, the expectations placed on you, or the endless distractions that constantly fight for your attention. But amidst all that noise, peace is something you must create for yourself. It comes from within. When you focus on yourself, you begin to make choices that lead to peace. You start building your life in a way that feels good on the inside, not just for the world to see. External accomplishments are wonderful, but they alone don't guarantee peace. I've seen it time and time again. People chase after success, thinking it will bring them peace, only to find themselves feeling empty and restless once they've attained it. That's because true peace doesn't come from the outside in. It comes from the inside out. It's earned through the way you live your life, through the discipline you apply to your daily habits, through the respect you have for yourself and the boundaries you create. Peace is the natural byproduct of making choices that are aligned with your values. When you begin to live with intention, when you stop letting the world dictate your every move, when you stop allowing distractions to pull you in every direction, that's when peace starts to show up in your life. It's also earned through self-respect. The more you respect yourself, the more you honor your time, your energy, and your purpose. When you stop compromising on the things that matter most to you, when you stop settling for less than you deserve, that's when you build peace. It's a peace that's rooted in integrity and the knowledge that you are living in alignment with your best self. Purpose is another key factor in building peace. People often look for peace in places and things, but true peace comes when you live with purpose. Purpose gives your life direction. It anchors you. When you know why you're doing what you're doing, when you have a clear sense of your mission in life, the chaos of the world doesn't have the same power over you. You stop being tossed around by every little distraction, and instead you start to move with focus and clarity. And let me be clear, building peace isn't about avoiding challenges or escaping from discomfort. Life will still throw its curveballs at you. But when you've built peace from the inside out, you're able to handle those challenges with composure. You won't be rattled by every little setback. You'll be anchored in your own sense of purpose, and that gives you the strength to move through life with calm confidence. When you focus on yourself, on your growth, your inner strength, your discipline, and your purpose, you begin to construct a life that feels good on the inside. You stop being at the mercy of the world's demands, and you start creating a life that's aligned with who you are and who you want to become. That's when peace becomes yours. You won't find peace by searching for it in the world outside. You won't find it by achieving more or accumulating more things. Peace comes from within, and it's built through consistent effort and self-respect. So stop looking for peace in external achievements and start building it from within. When you do, you'll find that life has a way of aligning itself in ways you never thought possible. Peace will be your foundation, and from that foundation, everything else will fall into place.